All right. Good afternoon or good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Can you please raise your hand if you can hear me? Just want to make sure everyone is able to hear me. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining our webinar, How to Scale Your Agency and Win the Numbers Game. This webinar, it is designed for agents who want to grow and scale their agency. Some of you may not have a lead management system in place and want to better understand why you need one and what to look for in a good lead management system. I do see here that we have a few MVP customers, which is great, but just an FYI, if you're already an MVP customer, you might know some of this information, but it never hurts to have a refresher. So you are more than welcome to stay on the call. We are recording the webinar for everyone to be able to access in case you missed something. We will also have a Q&A session at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. Okay, so let's get started. We're all going to introduce ourselves. My name is Ashley. I am a customer success manager here at Agency MVP. I work with a few hundred agents, both captive and independent.
Hey everyone, my name is Cassie. I'm also a customer success manager here at Agency MVP, and I also help train independent and captive P&C agents.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Lavelli, and I am also an Agency MVP success manager. And I also work very closely with districts and independents as well as agents. So today I will be discussing some of the ways that agents have been getting their new leads during this difficult time and how marketing has changed that post-pandemic, right? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and let's get started. I want to paint a picture for you guys. You're shaking hands at an event or at a networking event, going to your local fire department to hand them coffee and bagels, maybe even hosting your monthly networking gathering, right? With some of your roofers or realtors. What about this one? What about maybe just even meeting with your new clients, right? The whole idea, after all, is that you're growing your relationship with your clients. But nowadays, it's so difficult for us to be able to truly grow that relationship with them and being able to kind of win them over, right? Or maybe get them to trust you in order for them to not only just trust you, but to be able to refer more people to you. So it's gotten a little bit more difficult. So now let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it was kind of pre-pandemic, right? So pre-pandemic, we maybe did a lot of networking events, maybe even door to door, going to your local businesses, maybe meeting with them, giving them some goodies, right? Minimal cold calling. A lot of us hate cold calling, and even more so internet leads, right? We tried very minimally to purchase internet leads and the whole cold calling. So now let's talk about some ways that you're now having to determine that, right? You're having to kind of go different routes on getting some new leads or reaching out to those people, getting some referrals. So now post-pandemic, right? Let's talk about that. What are some ways that your agency has changed because of the pandemic? So if any of you want to answer that, please use the Q&A. And if you have some really cool ideas of how you guys have been kind of working on getting people into the agency or getting some of those leads, referrals, please use that Q&A to kind of answer those. All right. There we go. Okay, so John, he says, we just increased our online marketing sources. Right, that's absolutely important, right? Having to get those. And there we go. So to my point, now we are having to kind of lead more into internet leads, right? We weren't too happy about doing that prior, right? We tried to refrain from having to purchase internet leads, but now we almost have no choice but to purchase internet leads and do some cold calling. So in this webinar, we are actually going to discuss that and how you should now be working those internet leads that you're going to be purchasing, as well as cold calling into a lead management system. So why don't we also talk about maybe post-pandemic? So now you are having to purchase those internet leads, do some cold calling, direct mail, maybe even, or I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of this, but maybe even getting a list from your local city to find out who recently put in a permit for maybe a new roof, right? Here in Texas, we have lots of hail claims. So that's something that a lot of people here in Texas might benefit from. All right, any of you have any ideas on where now you're kind of getting your new leads? Other than maybe doing like some social media, Facebook giveaways, or maybe even some referrals, setting up a workflow to send out a series of text messages and emails so that, you know, after you sold a policy, you can easily tell them, hey, if you're happy with the services that you received, we'd love it if you know of anyone else that may also benefit from the same type of services, and have them reply back maybe on that text with referrals. I mean, nowadays we have to be so creative and think outside of the box. I know that we're always like sending gift cards, but what about electronic, you know, sending out gift cards for Starbucks electronically, that sort of thing. But anyone else have any other good ideas about new ones? All right. Yeah. John, you are correct. Yeah, so that is something that we have to continue using even more so after the pandemic. John said referrals, internet leads, MVP workflows, social media and events have been used quite a bit. Right? So we are definitely going in that route. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let Cassie take over from here.
All right. Hey, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to go over how you can generate more quotes through ranking your leads. And we're going to talk about 3 key metrics that you'll want to track so that you can grow your agency. Now, if y'all have any questions at any time throughout this, definitely put those in the Q&A box. You know, we'll have our Q&A time at the end, but definitely put those in there, A, so you don't forget them, and B, you know, I might be able to answer them as we go as well. All right, so first thing, we're going to talk about ranking leads to generate more quotes. All right. So using that Q&A box here, go ahead and tell me, how much time do you spend daily calling people only to find out that they weren't interested? You know, was it minutes? Is it hours? You know, let me know in that Q&A box. All right, so we got hours in here. How many hours would you say, John? Every day. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of time for sure. A lot of time is wasted. But how much time could you save in a week or a month or a year? So I'm going to pull up a calculator here. So let's say that maybe you waste about 3 hours a day. Okay. So there's about 20 working days in a month. So you're wasting about 60 hours in a month. How about in a year? 720 hours wasted. Like, that's a lot of time. And think about how much money that's wasted too, because you're not focusing on those people that are most valuable and most likely to close, because you're too busy calling all these other people that just aren't as valuable. All right. So top agents say that they use a lead management system in order to rank leads to save them that call time, right? It saves them so much time. So again, use that Q&A box and tell me how many of you already use a lead management system? And do any of you already use a lead management system? Okay, it looks like a couple of you do. Perfect. So what influenced you to choose that lead management system specifically? What were the factors that encouraged you to go ahead and sign up for that? Did you like the way that it looked? Did you like some of the features that it had? What were some of the important factors that drew you to that particular system? Okay, so it looks like some of you were recommended your system from other agents. You like the ease of use, functionality, great customer service and training, like the way that you can manage your staff, making calls, recommended from your district. Yeah, these are a lot of great answers. There's a lot of great things here. So I'm going to go over some things that you should look for in a lead management system to really help you get the most with ranking your leads and all of that. So first, you want it to actually rank your leads, right? So some systems out there are going to filter leads or score them. Basically, that just means they're putting them into different buckets to kind of sort them out for y'all. But what you really want is a system that actually ranks these leads. You know, ranking leads is going to help you to focus on who is most valuable, most likely to close, so you can make the most of your call time. And you're not spending those 3 hours a day wasted just calling, you know, any regular Joe Schmo, right? But then you also want to know what criteria that they are ranking these households with. Is it insurance specific things like things that impact underwriting? Because that's kind of important in our industry, right? You know, also, how many points of criteria are they ranking things on? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 30? You know, those are all important things to be looking into. Second, you want a system that's going to track leads over time. So if you think about it, what happens to your quotes not closed? So if we're looking at November, all those households that you don't close this month, what's going to happen to them? You know, do they get kind of stuffed into a file somewhere? You know, do they fall through the cracks? Are you able to work them at their next renewal, or do they just kind of get lost? You know, does the system have a way that you can follow up with them renewal after renewal until you're able to close them? And what about leads on a daily basis? So, you know, there's only so many hours in a day. Sometimes we get pulled away to do other things, so we don't get to call through everybody that we would like to. So what happens to those people? You know, are they still there for you to work tomorrow and the next day, or do they just kind of get lost in the shuffle? Finally, what about what happens when staff members leave? Fortunately, that happens. And so what happens to all the leads that they were working? Are they just kind of lost in cyberspace there? Or can another staff member come along, pick them up, and keep working them for you? The third criteria you want to look for in a lead management system is automations. Actually, we'll talk more about this later, but just a few things that you want to look for is, one, does it even have automations? You know, can it send out emails and texts for you? What about automatically assigning campaigns to households based on certain criteria? For example, internet leads. When you receive an internet lead, you want your lead management system to automatically assign a workflow to that household so they can begin receiving texts and emails from you so you can get your name in front of them right away. Finally, and most importantly, do you have control over these automations? Can you control what they say, who they're sent to, and when they are sent? Fourth thing is reports. What kind of reports does the lead management system offer? Does it allow you to track your ROI, your return on investment? Now, you want to make sure that the marketing campaigns you are spending money on are actually providing you a return and making you money, because that's kind of important, right? Does it help you with target marketing? Does it let you know what lines of business are most profitable to you? Does it tell you which zip codes you have a higher closing ratio in? Does it allow you to target people based on their risk rating or insurance score? Finally, does it provide you with call performance reports? Now, you want to know how many calls your staff are logging daily, which we will talk about a little bit more later. Fifth thing you want to look for is ease of use. You want a system that is easy to use. Does it allow you to easily accomplish what you need to? Does it save you time with quoting, calling, again, automations, and managing staff? Or does it require you to hire someone to manage it for you? If you think about it, what makes you money? If we manage our leads, we can close more sales, which means more money in your pocket. Sixth thing here is owning your data. Now, this one is really important. Do you own the data that you enter into your lead management system? Your agency is your data. And when I talk about data, I mean the customer identifiable data at a minimum, like name, address, phone numbers, the basics that you need to be able to work them in the future. According to top agents, this is one of your most valuable assets. So don't overlook this feature. So to recap on your lead management system must-haves, they want to include a ranking system for your leads, tracking those leads over time. They need to have automations. You want to have some reports. It needs to be easy to use, and you want to own your data. Now, next thing that I want to talk about here is the 3 key ROI metrics to track daily. All right. First thing is your quote ratio. How many households are moving from leads to quoted, right? Are there any areas where your leads are kind of getting stuck in that sales process? We call that bottlenecks here. Are they getting stuck in one section and not moving forward in that sales process? If you have too many leads piling up in one section, then you got to make some adjustments here, because we want to move them from lead to quoted and then ultimately to customer. Knowing your quote ratio also helps you determine if the lead source is worth it. But you want to pay attention to quote ratios over time. So, for example here, internet leads in the first year might have a closing or a lead to quote ratio of about 3% or less, right? But that goal in that first year really is to be able to confirm their data. That way, over time, a period of like 18 months to maybe even 3 years, you can actually close them. But if you're tracking your lead to quote ratio just based off of those first few months, then you're missing out on that long-term data that you need. You might be giving up on those leads way too soon. Now, this does lead me into the next one that you want to track here. Closing ratios, right? You want to know what your closing rate is. Now, you want to track your ROI for each marketing source so that you can determine which sources are profitable and putting money in your pocket and which ones aren't. That way you can quit wasting marketing dollars on campaigns that don't work, right? Now, however, like we talked about in the last point, your leads can take time to close. You might not close them until the second or even the third renewal, which is generally the case for internet leads. So don't immediately discount a marketing source just because the closing rate is lower in the first few months. As long as it's increasing over time, then you know, hey, this could be a good marketing source for me. You also want to track your target market. You want to know which zip codes you're closing highest in, as well as which credit class or risk rating that you close more of. This way you can increase your ROI with your different marketing sources by being even more specific with your marketing. Third thing here is you want to track calls. You want to know how many calls it takes your staff to close a sale. So in a study that we did here at Agency MVP back in 2019, we found that 65% of sales from our members comes from the 12th call attempt or more, usually around the 15th or 16th call. Another statistic we also found is that 80% of phone calls are unanswered, which is very interesting data here. It's important to know that you want to know how many calls it takes your staff to close on average. You also want to know how many calls it takes them per marketing source, because different sources are going to have a different number of calls that it takes to close them. So tracking daily call activity ensures that your staff are going to meet your agency's goals, and that's really important. So to recap on the ROI metrics here, you want to focus on quote ratio, you want to focus on closing rate, and you want to focus on tracking calls. So now that we've talked about the numbers, I want to pass it off to Ashley here so she can talk to you more about automation.
Thank you, Cassie. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about automating everything. Remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box and we will get those answered for you, as well as we have our open Q&A in just a few moments. Now, automating, it's important because you're able to follow up faster, as well as follow up later on, maybe for leads that weren't ready at the time. And you're going to be able to focus on what's important versus cutting and pasting text messages and emails throughout the day. Now, automating it as much as you can is key to doubling your closing rates. The agent who reaches that lead first, that's the one who wins, right? And remember, there's this saying I like, persistence beats resistance. So you have to be persistent with getting in contact with those leads, and automating is going to help you with that. Now, I do want you to think about a few questions here. In the Q&A, tell me, how often do you text or email to follow up with your leads? So how often are you texting them like, hey, just want to follow up with that quote from yesterday? Or how often do you send them an email saying, hey, are you ready to move forward? Would you say maybe once a day? Tell me in the Q&A box how often you send out a text or email to follow up. Every day. Someone said every day, yes. And I feel like that may be most of you, right? Oh, another every day, exactly. Now, how long does it take you to write up that text message or write up that email? I know for me, I'm always trying to check the grammar, make sure my email is perfect. Might take maybe 1 minute to write up a text message, right? Maybe a few minutes to write up an email. Someone says, I have workflows, so I don't need to do that. Awesome. And that's the importance of getting everything automated, right? And the last thing I want you to think about is, how much time do you think it could save you to have it automated? So if you're following up every day, right, and you're writing these text messages, writing every email individually, think about how much time that could save you. If you're doing maybe 15 follow-up text messages a day that take you a minute or two to write, right? And then think about how much time that is in a week. So having everything automated is going to help save you time. Now, you can set up some text or email campaigns that are going to do the work for you. So some different options that you can put together would be a new internet lead campaign, a win back, an X date follow-up, cross-sell opportunity campaigns, and even a customer onboarding campaign that I think Erica mentioned earlier, just saying, hey, thanks so much. If you know anyone, please refer them to us. Now I'm going to show you guys an example of what a campaign could look like. So here I have a quotes not closed campaign. Now this is the campaign that I have in Agency MVP. You'll see here that I have text messages and emails set up here. We can decide how soon we want these messages to go out. We can also make it personal. So you do want to make it personal. You want to add in their first name. You want to also ask them a question. Remember to keep your messages short and to the point, because we want them to be responding to us, right? So here I have a question that says, do you want me to text or email that quote to you? Very to the point. Text it or email it to me. We have some follow-up emails as well. We do recommend that you have at least 3 actions per campaign. And remember, this is going to be running in the background while you're focusing on making your calls to households. So a few little tips here for creating your automations. Again, make it personal. Create a minimum of 3 actions per campaign. Keep your messages short and to the point. Include questions. And one thing that's very important is that you're tracking your success. You should be able to track how many people opened that message, how many people responded to that message compared to how many people didn't respond. And when you're able to track that, you can decide, maybe I need to change the wording here a little bit, or maybe I need to change up when I send this email. So very important to be able to track that in your lead management system. All right, so today we discussed where agents are finding the best leads, how to effectively work your leads and automate your processes to double your closing ratio. We do hope that you got value from today's webinar. Regardless of what lead management system you have or which you choose to go with, Agency MVP does have everything that we discussed today. So you can rank your leads, track your ROI, you can get reports, create automations. I challenge everyone on this call to gather your data from the past year or so, like your quotes not closed, your win backs, things like that. Upload it to a system like MVP that will rank them, and then give it about 30 days to see how your sales increase. Now, we do have a special offer for all of you that attended today. It is valid until November 30th. And that is, everyone already gets a free 14-day trial when you sign up for MVP. But as a thank you, we do also want to give you $150 off your first month. It's for unlimited users. You can cancel anytime. We also offer plans for 1- and 2-person agencies. You guys can schedule a demo to get that set up. You're going to use webinar 99 as your code to get your first month for $99, or you can just go on and sign up yourself at agencymvp.com. There's really no risk here. If you don't have a good system in place, give MVP a try and see if you can make some quick wins in these next 30 days. Now we are going to open it up for some questions. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the Q&A box, and we will be answering those for you. All right, so John has a question. He wants to know if within MVP, you can set up multiple workflows. So in MVP, you can only have one workflow at a time going out to a specific household, but you can create multiple workflows and assign them at different times. Great question, John.
I will add to that too that our workflows do have the ability to transfer to an X date workflow. So you can have MVP set up like once that workflow is done with the initial set of actions, it'll automatically transition them to a different workflow specifically tied around their renewal date.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Cassie, because that's just a way to even continue keeping up with these prospects or customers even longer than just a few months. Any questions you have, you can type those in the Q&A box. And I'll go ahead and put this other slide up for you guys for you to write down that coupon code. All right, well, if there are no more questions, thank you all so much. We appreciate you joining us, and feel free to reach out to us if you need anything. Thank you,
Definitely.
John,
Thank you all
for
for
joining
attending.
us.